Well, former Director General of National Poverty Eradication Program, that's Professor Magnus Packol, joins us now to discuss the renewed hope conditional cash transfer of the Tinubu administration. Welcome, Professor. Very warm welcome to the program. It's great to have you. And I'm going to get straight into it with my first question. In the report we just watched, we saw an emphasis on credibility yet again. And the Minister of Finance, Wale Edun, spoke about the biometric audit trail, which makes this particular initiative different from those that have happened in the past. Now, what is your confidence that this money will reach those that it is intended for?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you so very much, for having me on your show. You guys do a wonderful job always. So, by the way, let me first congratulate the president, for starting this program again. We really commend the way that he has been very purposeful in the fight against poverty. He's talked about it quite a bit, so I commend the administration for that. Now, to get to the point, first, let's also realize that I started the conditional cash transfer program in Nigeria. So I introduced this program in 2007 in the dying days of the Obasanjo administration into the Yar'Adua administration. It was picked up by the previous administration because I handed the details to them and they administered it. So this new administration has picked up on it again, and so I commend them. But I think that this is a wonderful, wonderful program that we should all support. But as you said, and as the minister said, and I trust the capacity of the administration to do this. I believe that they can do it. They have capable hands to do it. The Minister of Finance is quite capable. The Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Poverty Alleviation, also very capable. Listening to them, I believe they can do it. But they will need the support of everybody. We need to be able to support them to help them get it through. Now, I don't see it as a palliative, though. I mean, you typically you don't run a conditional cash transfer program as a band-aid, as something that you use temporarily. It is supposed to be a long-term human capital development program, and that's why it's called a conditional cash transfer. That is, that it is conditional upon certain performances. For example, we want kids to be in school. We want them to do health checks so that we can get their ability to provide, to produce and to increase the productivity of the country down the road. After all, this is a loan that we're taking from the World Bank to use for this program, the way I understand it. So you gotta be able to pay on that loan down the road. If that's the case, then we got to be sure that the people who are benefiting from this, especially with regard to the kids that will be in the households that are benefiting, that these guys will be able to help to pay on the loans down the road, and that the process will lead to increased productivity for the country, stronger economic growth, wider sharing of prosperity. So that's what I'm looking for this. I think this is a massive attempt by the administration to try to do something really significant, and I think it's a good program that they've started. Now, just to add quickly, because I don't know how much time we have, because I think it's important, the register has to be well put together. I am usually skeptical when I hear politicians get into this kind of business. There is a way. There is a crowd-based method for setting up a registry that will be credible for everybody to see. I heard the Minister of Finance talk about credibility and biometrics and all of that. So I just want to mention that there is a way to get it done to where all of the world will see that it was well put together, it was credibly put together. So I'm hoping that they have their methods, and we'll be happy to see what that method looks like, or those methods look like. But that the registry is extremely important, but making sure that you got this product into the hands of people who actually need them is important. So and then accountability in that regard is important, and so hopefully they're going about it as credibly as they can.
Hopefully that's certainly the case, Professor. But we also heard George Akume when he said the government is working to develop and deploy several more solutions and interventions to help Nigerians of all walks of life. Just wondering what you think those solutions should look like.
Well, see, the problem we face in the country is a human capital deficiency problem. In fact, I can tie all of the problems that we face to that. And when I'm talking about that, I'm not talking just about kids going to school and having hospitals. I'm talking about strong intentionality in making sure that we produce the kinds of things that we should produce. The reason why we have the exchange rate problems that we have today is because we're not producing. We're not as productive as we should be. Our per capita GDP has dropped now well below $2,000. That really underscores the problem right there, that we are not just being productive. The reason we are not is because we are not paying attention to human capital development the way it should be. And all of this is tied together. So I think that whatever measures that we're trying to do, we should be intentional about them. We should know exactly what we want. Then we go and try to get the resources that we want, the pillars that we want to be able to achieve those aims. And then we should have a way of measuring the return on investment. We got to be able to be sure that the processes that we took, the resources that we employed, actually lead to the results that we want, and that it gives us a very good rate of return. And so with that, we just have to be more intentional, more purposeful, more efficient in the way we deliver these services. But again, I support the idea of a conditional cash transfer program. I don't support it for just 3 months. The countries that have done it very well, like Brazil and Mexico, I had the privilege of going to Mexico and understudying their program very well. And at that time, I had the opportunity of even advising the Mexican government that I thought that the way they were going about it was too unwieldy and it would be difficult to continue. And lo and behold, they've had all kinds of problems administering their program. The biggest that we've had in the world, that of Brazil, the most familiar, was ended by the previous president, although the new president, Lula da Silva, is trying to revive it since he started the original one in the first place. So, because it is a good program, but the point I'm just trying to make here is that we have to really know what we're trying to achieve from it. We are not going to achieve much from it by just having a program for 3 months. That's not going to work. That would be a grievous mistake if that is the idea that we have. We gotta have an idea that this is long-term, and also it has to be tied to other stronger poverty reduction programs. Poverty eradication happens as a mopping up of a mopping up strategy. That is, you have to have industrialization. You got to be able to create jobs. The number one antidote to poverty is jobs. That is the number one antidote to poverty. Jobs. Have people work well-paying jobs. That's what gets you out of poverty. Have people have skills that they could use to work. Now, some people fall through the cracks because they are not able to get those skills, because they're not able to get into the mainstream economy right away. And for those guys, you provide a conditional cash transfer program like this. So they all have to be tied together. You got to have anchor programs in every single local government where people are getting up in the morning and going to work like all the advanced economies in the world are doing. I mean, there is no gimmick about it. So we can't, kind of play around with it. The problem is create jobs, find a way to do that. We can do it through global partnerships. We can do it through our own selves, determining that we have products that we can produce. We have things that we can produce and sell to the world. And if you're not able to sell the goods and services that the people of the world want, then you will be poor. Poor countries are those countries that cannot do that. If you can sell goods and services to the world, then you're not going to be a poor country. At this point, we're only selling mostly crude oil. We can do much better than that. When we do that, then we can tie these kinds of programs like a conditional cash transfer program to it.
Thank you so much for your holistic analysis of this issue. Now, the World Bank representative had described this conditional cash transfer as a shock responsive cash transfer, and I think you captured that when you mentioned how 3 months of this is just not good enough. There needs to be more around this. Now, with an inflation rate of 26.7%, excuse me, we know that 25,000 will not go very far by next month and the month after that. Again, we're sitting at an exchange rate of around 1,000 naira to the dollar, and the world poverty line is $2 per day, or just slightly over $2 per day. Now, very briefly, 1 trillion naira, could it not have gone to better use than to this that we see is going to have very limited positive results?
Well, this is one of the things that you can't do, so we cannot say that it shouldn't have gone to it. What I'm trying to say is that we should tie it to the other things. We should have strong engines, for creating jobs, for getting our industries to work. We should look for ways of making sure that we have energy security, so that companies can continue to produce competitively. It is very difficult, as you just said, if you are trying to be competitive, let's say with the Chinese, where they have single-digit interest rates, and we have double-digit interest rates, where they have low rates of inflation. When they have access to funds, they have energy security, and you're trying to compete with them in the global market space, very difficult. So we have to have resources to tackle those kinds of issues. But at the same time, I commend the idea of doing a conditional cash transfer program. I think it is good, but it has to be tied to something that I see as an anchor activity, for driving the economy. I don't think it should exist by itself, and I don't think it should run for only 3 months and stop. I think it's something that is perpetual, because it is aimed at getting our younger people to be more productive down the road. That's why it is conditional. It's conditional on that. It cannot be conditional on just having it as a shock therapy thing, and then for 3 months, and after 3 months, then what do? It causes more frustration, because by that time they would have been dependent. And then let me say one more thing. I also don't believe that you should keep the same people on a conditional cash transfer program forever. That's what they've done in some of the other countries, and that does not work. When I introduced the program, the idea was to graduate people off the program within a year or two and transit them into a microfinancing program where they are producing goods and services that we can sell around the country and actually outside of Nigeria. So it's a very important thing. We understand how this thing really should work. You cannot create a welfare system that will become something that we cannot sustain. Nigeria, I can tell you right now, Nigeria will not be able to sustain this kind of program interminably. So we got to look for a way that people are graduated off it. So you got a new set of people come on, the older guys go until we are able to work the poverty rate to a very, very low level.
Very well said. Former Director General of National Poverty Eradication Program, Professor Magnus Kpako, would like to say thank you for your time here on Newsday. We appreciate your insight and your